All right, you're looking at Bitcoin and the square of the range. We anchor from the high of December 22nd, 2017. Believe it or not, I created this chart back then, and I've been following it ever since. And let me show you how this works. Halfway down, if you just take 19,870, you divide by 2, you get 9,935. That's half of the high, and that's the 50% retracement on the square of the high. Now, if you halfway through the square is an important division both in price and time, and look at this, the thing shot up exactly on time. That's going to be important later, so make a mental note of that. 3/4 of the way through the square turned out to be an important low. Notice that it's 3/4 of the way through the square in time and price. That's even better. And that set up this huge rally. And then you can see, normally you might have thought that, hey, this was going to be a double top of some sort and then it would come off. But when you broke out, you had a higher low. The completion of the square gave you a rocket ship move up, kind of similar to what we had here, only bigger. So halfway through the square is a very important time for potential change in trend. Completion of the square is also an important point. Now you're thinking, hey, this is useless because, it's already up here. It's moved on. The square is no longer useful. Well, that's not exactly true. If you take that same square, now I've resized the chart, but this is that same square. And you can see 2 squares up was resistance initially, fell back, and then 3 squares up was resistance. And actually 1/4 division of the 4th square gave you a top here. Halfway through the 4th square up was the top high here. And note, going back to this chart, you see how big that move was? Completion of the square predicted a big move. And you don't always know whether it's going to be up or down. You have to keep an open mind about that. But once it starts to run, you knew to get on it. And the reason that's important is if we go back to the future right now, guess where we are? This was the completion of 1 square in time. This is the completion of a 2nd square in time. Hey, could lightning strike twice in the same place? If you're looking at this, the completion of the 1st square gave you this rocket ship move up. Is it possible the completion of the 2nd square in time is launching a rocket ship move up? I think it probably is. Now, you probably know the SEC has come out and said, hey, they got hacked. And the announcement about the ETF was false, but I still think they're probably going to go ahead. And the reason I believe that is probably because of this chart right here and the fact that you completed a square, the 2nd square in time, the same way you got this rocket ship move up here when you completed the 1st square. So this is pretty cool. And also note, you're 2 squares up and 2 squares over as you started the move. Is that freaking awesome? I mean, you can't do this unless you're doing Gann. No other type of technical analysis would show you this. They can pretend to show it to you, but this is Gann. This is Gann at its finest. We're looking at the square of the high. It's no longer the high, but hey, it's still important because this was the square of the high back in 2017. We anchor from that current high, and it was still valuable here. 2 squares later, it's still valuable. Is that amazing? I think it's pretty cool. Now, if you want to do something new, you could say, hey, I want to take the new high from November 2021, anchor. I'm still using the same scale, price unit of 128 or 128 points per week. And that is the slope of the 1x1 where it crosses 0. That completes the square in time. We don't know what's going to be happening out here in 2032, March of 2032. We know it's going to be important because it was in the past. If we go back, for the same reason this was important here when you completed the square, this is going to be important in March of 2032. Does that kind of flip your wig? I'm telling you, you know something right now that no other type of analysis can tell you. You can actually mark that on your calendar. Mid-March of 2032 is going to be an important change date, a big trend change. We don't know what it'll be, but some major trend change in 2032. So, and of course, also January of 2027. We know that's important. What's interesting here, the 2x1 line, we broke out above that, and it shows you the upside momentum here. This thing is starting to rock and roll, and it found support on the 2x1 here. It broke out above the 2x1 down. This thing is going to go. It's a rocket ship. So I don't care if the SEC says they haven't approved the ETF yet. I think the Gann charts are telling you this thing is already going. This is a big deal.